What happens when arrogance meets a quiet power it can't comprehend? In the loud, crowded hallway of an American high school, a black teenage girl in a simple dress is violently shoved against a row of metal lockers. The impact echoes for a moment, a sharp crack that silences the immediate chatter. Her dignity is assaulted in front of a sea of laughing, indifferent faces. The white bully, a boy named Billy, believes he is untouchable, mocking her skin color, her clothes, her very right to exist in his space. But behind her calm, unwavering eyes, there is a secret that could dismantle his entire world. Before we continue, tell us where in the world you are watching from. Drop it in the comments below. And if you enjoy this story, don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more powerful content like this. She is the daughter of a federal agent. When the scales of power suddenly tip, who will be the one left trembling? The sound of slamming locker doors became the backdrop to the scene. The hallway was filled with laughter, but it was the cruel, sharp kind that no one ever wants to be the target of. Billy, wearing a bright polo shirt, slammed the black girl, Amara, against the cold blue metal, holding her face so firmly against it that the door rattled in its frame. "See, this is where you belong," he sneered, his hand locked on the back of her head. His friends grinned beside him, watching her humiliation as if it were a spectator sport. She didn't make a sound. She didn't struggle. She stood perfectly still, her hands pressed flat against the steel door. It was a small, quiet gesture, but it felt heavy with meaning. Around them, other students hurried past, their eyes glued to the floor, all of them pretending not to see. Her silence was more deafening than their collective laughter. "Don't you dare think you're equal to us just because they let you into this school," Billy taunted, his voice steady and sharp. His friends laughed even louder, patting each other on the back as if cruelty were a competitive game. A few girls down the hall quickly turned their heads away, one nervously biting her lip, another clutching her textbooks like a shield. Amara slowly pushed herself away from the locker, smoothed the front of her dress, and looked him directly in the eyes for the first time. Her gaze didn't waver. He had expected anger, maybe even tears. Instead, he was met with an unnerving calm. That emptiness unsettled him. "Why don't you say something?" he demanded, his voice suddenly less certain. She didn't. No one moved. The silence in the air became suffocating. His confident smirk flickered for just a second before he forced it back onto his face. But deep down, a tiny seed of fear had just been planted. The lunch bell shrieked, and the cafeteria buzzed with noise until it didn't. Billy swaggered toward her table, his voice booming across the room. "Still eating all alone? I guess nobody wants to sit with someone like you. I guess that's what happens when you're just different." His words were a whip designed for a public flogging. Trays clattered as students turned to watch the unfolding drama, some whispering among themselves, others lowering their heads to avoid getting caught in the crossfire. Amara picked up her fork, placed it down gently beside her plate, and then looked up at him. She didn't speak. She didn't even blink. She just held his gaze, her silence sharp and cutting, making his throat feel tight. His friends had expected her to break, to cry, to give them the reaction they craved. Instead, he felt something beginning to crumble inside of him. The entire hallway seemed to freeze. Time itself felt like it was stretching. He shoved her tray off the table sending food splattering across the tiled floor. Gasps rippled through the nearby tables, but she still didn't react. And that lack of a reaction broke him more than any physical retaliation ever could. That evening, rumors began to spread through the school like a wildfire. Someone whispered that she wasn't just a normal student. Someone else swore they had seen men in dark suits parked near the school gates that afternoon. Billy laughed it all off until the next day when two imposing men in dark jackets were waiting right at the main entrance. They didn't touch him. They didn't threaten him. They just stood there, their presence making the air feel colder. When he tried to walk past them, one of them spoke. "Mr. Davies would like to have a word with you." His blood ran cold. He knew that name, Special Agent Davies, FBI. He turned his head and saw Amara standing calmly by her locker, just watching. She didn't smile. She didn't have to. His knees felt weak, like they might buckle. For the very first time in his life, he wasn't the predator. He was the prey. From that day forward, the entire atmosphere of the school shifted. The once feared bully now walked the hallways with his eyes lowered, avoiding contact with everyone. His old group of friends kept their distance, whispering about him instead of laughing with him. Amara never raised her voice, never bragged about what happened. She didn't need to. Everyone knew her father wasn't just a name. He was the kind of FBI agent that people were terrified to cross. But her real power, the power that had truly defeated him, wasn't found in that revelation. It was in the profound silence that had broken his spirit long before the truth ever arrived. Students would always remember the image of her pressed against that locker and how she completely refused to bend. Power isn't always about fists and loud words. Sometimes it's the quiet, unshakable certainty that justice is always watching.